Welcome back to Delivering More, folks. I'm your host, Ben Alkire, and we have another great show for you today. I appreciate consuming the content morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you can. We love it. As always, if you could go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, that's going to help us out more than you could ever know. I have a great tandem of guests with me again today. We have co-host and founder of Deliver That, Aaron Hoffman, back in the building.
Co-host.
First
time. I get to use that. Man, I'm excited.
Yeah,
really am.
Yeah, we're upgrading the title.
I'm no longer just a contributor.
Correspondent.
I'm a co-host now.
Yeah, amazing. All right, and this conversation should be right in our wheelhouse too. This should be
I'm really excited for
this. Yeah,
this
should be a really good one. I'm excited. We have founder and CEO of new Catering Connections, Byron Duncan, joining us today. Byron, how are we doing, sir?
Happy Monday, guys.
Yeah, that's true. We're kicking the week off nice.
I think we should coin a new phrase is that, catering runs on Duncan.
Oh.
No.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
All right, Jim.
But if only I have
that's
to
your cringe one for the day.
I like it though. I kind of like it. So had you and Aaron met previously in person? Or
I don't think we ever have in person. Maybe at one of the events. I'm not sure, but it's a pleasure to finally meet you and have a conversation.
Yeah, I think I saw you were a panelist back in pre-COVID. I saw you in Nashville at a conference, but we not first chance to kind of interact with each other. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I remember that was the MSI conference, at the time it was Monkey Media.
That's right.
So it was Monkey Media at the time.
Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, I appreciate everyone getting to meet here virtually then for the first time. As always, we like to kind of start with a little bit of background, get to know the guests a little bit more for ourselves and the audience. So we're starting out down in New Orleans, just outside New Orleans. Louisiana, Lafayette. You're a raging Cajun.
You got it.
Raging Cajun. How was our time down in Louisiana?
Good. Grew up here. I left for a few years during work, as that'll happen to you sometimes when you get out of college and decide to move away and make a career for yourself. But found my way back here about 20 years ago, and I'm half Cajun. So the half that's here loves the food and loves the community and everything. And this is where my family grew up, and my kids have grown up here, so I love it very much.
And then, but we clearly have a Roll Tide background here, so I do want to address.
That's the other half.
Address that.
I'm half Cajun, half Alabama. My dad was from Alabama and brought me up a Crimson Tide fan, which is tough in LSU country. Just let you know that for sure.
I can't even imagine. I'd say probably like growing up here and being like a Michigan fan.
Yeah, for sure. Very similar.
It's the worst, man.
Yeah, leads to probably a happier life in the sports realm, though.
Did you have to deal with that in school and stuff, being a Bama fan?
Yeah, it was tough. It got better after 2008, obviously, when Saban got here. But yeah, growing up, my elementary years were rough. Those were the between Coach Bryant and before Coach Saban years, and wasn't a lot of success. So I caught a lot of flack during those years for sure.
Interesting. That's super interesting. And I don't want to skip too far ahead. I know obviously we can get to the work history here, but I usually like to start as well. People who are in the restaurant industry for a core amount of their work career usually started out in the restaurant industry in some form or fashion. So were you a server, a busboy, dishwasher, anything like that growing up?
I started off at Taco Bell back when I was a freshman in college, and cooked meat 20 and 30 pounds at a time and a hell of a lot of fajita steak. And then I became an assistant manager. Then I became a general manager, actually my senior year in college. And I was probably going 80 hours a week between work and school, but I was a general manager for Taco Bell while I was going through college. And then I graduated from there and decided I was going to do something else for a living. And that only lasted a little while before I found my way back. So. But so I started off as Taco Bell.
Nice. What's your favorite item on their menu?
Ooh.
I was always a Mexican pizza guy. But there was also they used to have a Taco Bell Grande. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it was a long shell versus the short taco shells, and those were pretty good too. So.
Okay. Dang.
I think I'm like a chalupa guy.
I'm a quesadilla guy. A quesadilla or the cheesy gordita crunch.
You know what? The crunch wrap was like a new type of. I feel like I never had a crunch wrap until that was like an evolution of.
Yeah, we didn't have them back then. Back then, we even had what they would call taco lights, and where it was like a pizza shell that was kind of folded as a taco. So the enchilada was kind of a thing. I started when Mexi Melt started, and they were giving free Mexi Melts away with every order. It was brutal.
Yeah, my
back in the
dad's
day.
a big Mexican milk guy. Yeah, he loves them. Yeah, Taco Bell. I could talk about Taco Bell for a long time, I think.
I haven't had T-Bell in forever.
I just had it
Have to grab it
this
after
weekend.
this,
I think I put down like $17 worth of Taco Bell myself. So
Hey, I'll tell you what, though,
that's,
after doing it for 4 years, it taught you a lot. I mean, I learned pretty much everything I needed to learn about the rest of my career kind of started there. I mean, good bosses at the time that were pretty intense on what we wanted to learn. And it really kind of set the tone for me to show that if you worked hard, you can progress. But it also taught us how to work with clients, how to deal with, over the counters, customer service. There was so much tied into that fast food experience for me. And I'll still remember to this day everything I learned there. It still sticks with me 30 something years later. So.
Yeah, always very appreciative of the journey. And then you mentioned you had done something immediately after college. What's our time frame until after college to getting to HoneyBaked Ham then?
So I graduated college in advertising management. Decided I was going to do radio. So I went work in radio for a year, made no money, was miserable. And then I went to work for Kinko's in the pre FedEx office world back when it was still Kinko's. And I was with them for about 10 years. And I worked in 4 different markets, had really strong sales performance, kind of became a turnaround artist. And then when FedEx came in and kind of bought them out, I went through a career change and decided to go work for HoneyBaked. So I started with HoneyBaked around 02, 03. And the reason I went to work for HoneyBaked initially, it was so much like Kinko's, and people don't really understand what I mean by that, but it was a privately held company. So you had that culture that you wanted, but it was also retail. We made everything that we sold, and there was a B2B component. And that's where I really started to see my success in B2B sales, which is we had the highest B2B sales in the country. We had the highest per capita sales in the country. And it was all in our ability to interact over the counter and talk to businesses and then expand beyond that retail. That's kind of what led into catering. And that's where HoneyBaked kind of came into play. So I did, like I said, 10 years at Kinko's, loved those years. They were fantastic. But HoneyBaked was the business that I found that was most like it from a family culture vibe. And it was everything I wanted it to be.
Did you have I don't think T-Bell does catering. They might. I'm not sure. So your first taste of catering was with HoneyBaked Ham?
Correct. So like I said, we would do B2B opportunities with Kinko's and stuff. But yeah, at the time, Taco Bell didn't really do anything from a catering perspective. But yeah, HoneyBaked was where I kind of got introduced to it. And I latched onto it because of that B2B component, the ability for me to reach out to another business. And then that business would order a bunch of food. And then I'm educating all of these new people on my product. And so the marketing piece kind of played in. So everything that I loved about what I did at Kinko's really kind of transitioned over. But yeah, HoneyBaked was my first catering experience.
I think HoneyBaked's one of the easier restaurants to do catering delivery from.
I agree.
Because of the items.
Yeah.
You guys, your cold platters, I mean, they're the easiest thing ever to deliver,
Yeah, and I know we have a location not a quarter mile from us. We're literally one right turn into allotment away from a HoneyBaked Ham. I know I've taken countless deliveries from that location, and he's kind of mentioned the ease of delivery with HoneyBaked Ham. You guys, they have also do the individually boxed lunches very well, and they come in like nice branded HoneyBaked bags. You don't necessarily have to use the deliver that bag. Sometimes easy transport, easy to set up, easy to make look nice. I think that can really set apart a brand a lot of times.
Well, and HoneyBaked had the reputation already of being a pristine brand, an upper echelon brand. So when you got on the phone and you started talking to people would be like, ooh, and I always would say there's those brands out there that I call ooh brands, where you tell somebody that you work there, their first word is, ooh, I love it there. And great product. It lended itself well to a lot of opportunities. So whether it was a celebration or even like a funeral or a holiday driven, there's a lot of ways to use HoneyBaked catering, and their packaging is phenomenal. It visually kind of that product comes to life, and always has been one of our strengths when I was there for sure.
And you kind of mentioned there a little bit of the holiday volume with the brand like HoneyBaked Ham. I think in my realm, I never have like a big, like thick slice of ham unless it's like Christmas or Easter or one of those big holidays. How did you guys navigate growing the brand outside of major holidays and things like that?
Yeah. Well, again, you might eat ham at the holidays, but you eat a ham sandwich often.
Yeah.
And so to be able to say ham sandwiches are something that you can have all during the year, obviously, but you may not think you can have the world's best ham sandwich anytime. And now you can. And so we really kind of play to that strength, is that Yeah, you don't have to wait to just for the holidays to get a great ham sandwich, and then catering is that next logical step right behind it. So it really transitioned very well for us.
I think that's where, it connected with me as well. It's like, I only thought you got ham, like, like the big hams, like the big spiral hams, like the glazed ones. Oh my God.
So good.
I'm getting hungry just thinking about this. Good. All right. Yeah. But I'm a big ham guy. But like when I first saw, HoneyBaked Ham doing catering, I'm like, dude, this is normal. You can get HoneyBaked Ham
all year round.
Anytime you want. I didn't even know they had physical locations, to be honest. So, yeah, I definitely think catering helped you guys get the brand out there saying, hey, we're open for business, not just on the holidays, every day, right?
And I started off with them as a general manager for the first couple of years I was there. And we saw such huge growth that, almost for my location specifically, we were almost 50% of our revenue came from corporate catering and corporate gifting. And so when you start thinking about that impact, not only as a revenue stream, but how many people you're introducing to your, hey, we're open for lunch. You may not even realize we're open on holiday. You get that catering menu out in front of people, man. It's the best marketing tool there is, as far as I'm concerned.
This is going to be a great podcast.
Yeah. The access to an audience is so immediate.
We always preach that, catering is an opportunity to feed people that might have never had your food, might not come into your store. Like, it's a great opportunity. So why would you not try and capitalize on that?
For sure.
Aaron, we did some research at the time where we were seeing about 40% of the folks dining with you for the first time for catering had not tried your food before. So if you think a first-time catering customer and you're feeding 50 people, 20 people have not tried you before. That's huge.
Yeah.
And
you
somebody's paid sampling is what it is.
100%. And you got to think, out of those 20 people, some of them, if not all of them, had to have liked the food. So like they're going to come down and try you. Maybe they order from you guys next time. Maybe they say, hey, I want baked ham next time. Like they initiate it. So I love it, man.
Yeah, it's big time. Always big time to get those new customers on board. I do. We delve out of the restaurant industry for a quick minute after our time with HoneyBaked Ham to a company called Field Day. We're a VP of Strategy and Solutions. We're knocking down customers like Uber, AT&T, GNC, Chick-fil-A, massive companies, all well known across the United States. What were companies like that turning to Field Day to use within their own business?
So actually the conference I was referring to, Aaron, earlier, I actually met Alex, who was our CEO at Field Day there as well. And he was part of a data conference. I'm a data junkie. So anytime I can hear numbers and metrics, it kind of stimulates the brain. But so when we were there, one of the things I learned was restaurants obviously is the core product there, but the ability to, what Field Day was, it's a field marketing organization. So it's kind of an Uber model where there's a lot of gig workers that we had stationed all over the country. And if you had a location or something nearby and you wanted to promote a new location or a new menu item or something specific, you would hire us. Our people then capture information, then kind of go out into the community and spread the word. And so what Field Day was an opportunity to work with brands across the spectrum, restaurants, of course, but then you got into some of these non-restaurant brands because they wanted to have access to the immediate trade area around either a specific brick and mortar location or just kind of blitz a market and just kind of get the word out. And so that's what Field Day was built for, was to kind of get that message out locally. We would kind of help manage and coach and develop that process using gig workers in various markets around the country. So.
Yeah, and you had mentioned on your LinkedIn profile, I believe, somewhere along those lengths, you joined the company right as COVID had began, basically.
Timing.
Right, wild
timing was fantastic.
And you had brought up the fact that you began a phone outreach program kind of as a pivot to, I imagine, attract new business or gain new business or just help your customers out. And at Deliver That during COVID, we basically had to revamp our entire onboarding process. We used to do in-person ride-alongs where lead drivers, go and tag along with a new driver, show them the process, things of that nature. So pivoting during that time for a business was a huge risk, but also a huge necessity at the time. So how did that help develop Field Day, and then where did that take you guys from there?
Yeah, so where Field Day was initially that field model where we would be face-to-face interactions doesn't do well in the middle of a pandemic. And so one of the things that we had to figure out was, can we do some of that same outreach by using the phone? Because it's still about one-to-one communication. It's still about introducing to businesses nearby, because we weren't doing residential visits. We were doing business-to-business visits. So we just moved it from in-person to the phone. And I'll be honest, we saw more people answering the phone as COVID kind of kicked in, because I think of Craving Communications or whatever it was, but the phone program took off for us, and it was really kind of the savior in a way, in that it created a new revenue stream for us, and it allows us to pivot a lot of those activities into this. And it worked really well. We worked with a ton of brands. A lot of restaurants came in and started to participate in it. But what we found was, even as COVID started to subside and street canvassing started to come back, we were now armed with more than one way to reach out. Now we could reach out to you in person, or we could reach out to you by phone, and we could adapt or blend those based on what the needs are each customer. So yeah, it started off as a solution and during COVID, but then it became just another arm of the business as everything kind of calmed down.
Yeah, it's impressive, obviously, having to find a new solution to just keep the business moving.
Sounds like there was a silver lining for you guys, even though
was.
the pandemic was terrible. I mean, same with us, man. Like, you look at our business model; it's completely different. We had to,
entirely.
If you wanted to survive COVID, you had to adapt. You had to.
Yeah, I do want to. So I love touch on field, the kind of previous opportunities and things you've been involved in, but now we're gonna get back to the meat of the conversation. Catering, baby. This is where we all thrive. You've since begun a new concept, your own business, founder and CEO of New Catering Connection. When did you start this? 2022.
We started, well, the idea kind of originated toward the end of last year. We officially opened in January.
Okay.
The idea was for us is that, and I'll use field day as an example, a lot of top of the funnel, right? You're getting the word out, you're creating buzz, you're creating some interest. But the thing that kept coming back to us from some of our clients was, okay, I've got all these leads now. Now what do I do? In other words, you went out, you shared my information, people showed some interest. But what do I do? I don't have the team, or I don't have the resources. I don't have the ability to myself to go out and do it. And so I just saw this gap that was there. And it's something that's I've been passionate about for a long time. Even when I worked with HoneyBaked, I would support a lot of the corporate locations and then be a kind of a consultant on the franchise side. And yet I could see these franchisees that had this huge need. They wanted to, they craved it, but didn't have the resources to do it themselves. And so what we wanted to do was create a program where you can do this, whether you're one location, 2, 3 locations, you can compete at an equal level to the big dogs of the world that have hundreds and thousands of locations across the country, and compete side by side in a direct outreach to businesses in your trade area with this type of program. Sorry for jumping the gun a little bit, but to get the idea of, we wanted to provide the need that didn't exist at the time, that we don't feel exists on a wide
scale. So you guys
So
essentially not only creating new leads for catering, but converting them to actual sales for these. Man, that's powerful.
Correct. Yeah. So the difference is, what we do is we do that top of the funnel and create some interest, but then our whole model is built on moving them through the funnel. So we put them through what we call sequencing, where there's a series of post-qualified, conversations through email, by phone. We even do snail mail. We'll send thank you cards out on behalf of the business saying, thanks for talking to us. Here's a card, come have lunch on us. So it's really about person-to-person communication, but not just that top of the funnel, but what a true catering sales manager would do: build relationships, have conversations, not give up after first or second try, keep reaching out every few months, every few weeks, based on what the needs are. So yeah, it's that whole post introduction education model. It's everything after.
Almost like a catering relation management tool.
It's like exactly.
You think of CRM as like customer relations. It's catering relations.
Different CRM. Yeah. So like managing the B2B channels and relationships like that. Initially, what were you guys finding that these stores, restaurants, brands, what were they not capitalizing on to then generate that business? Was it just, hey, we have the marketing, we can do the outreach, and then we just can't get the conversions?
That's a lot of it. The other side too, if you think about it, a lot of brands are heavy on the franchise. In other words, very few corporate stores, but a lot of franchise locations. And a lot of times, if a brand doesn't have a lot of corporate locations, they don't necessarily build the infrastructure to support, at least from a catering perspective. So we found a lot of brands, there's some high level information on how to grow your catering and things like that, but not much. There's not a whole ton of information or a support system. So a lot of them are trying to figure out how to do it themselves, and they look around their 4 walls and go, I'm struggling just to fill the staff of my regular staff, much less to hire someone. And so that that second tier. In other words, yeah, the marketing piece, they understand, they can hire folks to do that. They can do some of it themselves, but what happens after? And that's where we kind of wanted to create a program where we could step in and handle that for them. The other side of it too is, even if they hire someone, do they know how to coach and manage and performance manage and give them the tools they need? So we can help them there as well. And ideally what we want is, you work with us for a while, you start to grow that business, then you hire your own person once you have enough revenue to support it. And then we can still continue to coach and manage until you have the confidence that they're good on their own. So not only can we help you grow the business, but we hopefully can help kind of develop your team as well. So
Yeah, that's wild. I think so. Obviously, once you've got them kind of a system in place, right? They have a team, they have the outlook, and they have the process on how to get these customers from A to B to C. How do you find this catering realm of things really helps drive revenue and produce more business for these restaurants? Obviously, as of late, catering and off-premise has become a huge conversation. But when you're first beginning and you're unaware of what catering can really do for you, how do you pitch that to a business? Like, hey, if you invest in this, it will have back end benefits that are unrealized right now.
Well, besides the revenue stream, which is there, I mean, you get a catering order, you get revenue, but it also introduces people to your brand, which we touched on earlier, that are going to come in now and dine at your place. It also increases the opportunity for that repeat business. So it's not just the first time, it's that ongoing lifetime value, that ongoing relationship. So I always tell businesses restaurants, when I'm talking to them, it's like, if you want to grow steady, catering is a good way to do that, especially if you're approaching it as, I want my catering to be not the 500 mega conference, but the 20 person office or the 15 person office that orders once a month or once every few weeks. And I tell them that because those customers don't require you to add any more labor to your schedule. They don't require much operationally. You just kind of incorporate it into what you're doing. So you get this slow, steady growth versus a roller coaster effect, which sometimes happens with catering. Sometimes when people get into it the first time, they go big, they do a lot of outreach, their catering grows, their operations aren't ready for that growth, and then they kind of struggle. So I think putting a program like this in place where you can put a steady flow of outreach and communication, building relationships. We also teach them how to talk to their customers over the counter to uncover opportunities that walk in daily, and just kind of build it steadily over time. If you do that, your total revenue is going to grow because that channel is growing, but you're introducing them to your product. You're introducing them to your location. Awareness becomes a big play in how to do that. And it just kind of grows organically. And I've not seen it not work. And in nearly 20 years of doing this now, it always works. I've not seen it not work as long as you have a steady commitment to getting in the community, having conversations,
Ben,
et cetera.
I think we talk about this all the time. Consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency, man. And you just talked about a lot of benefits too, about the actual monetary gains. What about, from like an actual operations perspective, keeping your employees engaged, paying for your labor with catering before the doors even open? I mean, there are so many benefits of implementing catering that I can't even count them all. I can't even count them all. There's too many.
Yeah, the list goes on and on. I think so. How do you build a knowledge base around this like you have now? Obviously, you had your time at HoneyBaked. You spent about 4 to 5 years, I believe, as their director of catering with HoneyBaked, and then now you have this new Catering Connections company. Do you base what you're providing your customers now around other models you see within the industry? Did you take some things you learned with HoneyBaked into this new concept, or where are you actually basing kind of the solutions you're finding off of?
I found from a B2B perspective, like when it's just how to grow your catering sales, some of it goes back to my Kinko's days, because when you open a new location, you seeded the market. So you would go out and you would bring samples, whether it was highlighters and pen and liquid paper and all the other things that you would bring at the time. For those of you old enough to remember liquid paper, I guess at this point, but what you would do is you'd get out and you'd seed the market, and you generate excitement. When I got to HoneyBaked, we started doing the same thing. It would be, you would bring, it was the we call them catering blitzes, where you get out in the community, you bring 2 boxes, a ham and a turkey, right? And a sandwich box, and you walk in, and one's for the person you meet, and one's for the person who they like best today. You know, it was kind of, because we know that gatekeeper, we always taught the gatekeeper, the first person you meet, you got to treat them like gold, because they're either the decision maker, and if they're not, they will control your access. So it was always a matter of one for you and one to share. It was that same mentality that we took from Kinko's into the HoneyBaked world. We even started doing one year what we would call ham and a handshake, where we would visit 20 new businesses that we wanted to do corporate gifting, and we'd drop off a ham. And we'd say, hey, we just wanted to come by and bring a bag of bread and a couple of bottles of mustard, and you guys get to know what this product's all about. And how you feel right now is how your clients will feel when you buy them those gifts at the holidays. And so it's understanding how to get out in the community and just seed the market. A lot of that it's common sense, it's relationship driven. So everything we do to grow sales, whether it was at Field Day, whether it was at HoneyBaked, whether what we're doing now, it's still about relationships. It's about connecting. It's about providing a solution for the person that you're reaching out to, and trying to communicate that to our restaurant partners that we're doing this with. Listen, what we're going to do is we're going to create some goodwill for you. We're going to soften it up. And now you just have to execute. If you can execute, operationally be strong, get it there on time, take the stress away from the person paying for the meal, your sales are going to grow. It's simple. It's easy. So I guess to your point, we've incorporated probably little tips and techniques. I'm a LinkedIn person. I'm always on. I'm always looking for something new, something exciting. Somebody put a thing on the other day that talked about how this generation is now using catering as a meal prep.
Yeah, we just talked about that. We literally just talked about that.
Fantastic. I can sell that, because now I can go to the brand and say, now we're going to reach out to all the apartment complexes around you and say, hey, if your residents are into meal prep, this is a great opportunity. Can you share this with all the folks that are residents at your apartment complex? So it's another selling tool for us. So yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to pick up stuff, but it still comes back to that core relationships.
Does new Catering Connections, is it, I mean, for brands listening out there, is it to completely replace, or like, do you guys play, so if they have their own catering program, their own catering managers right now, can new Catering Connections, also play a part in that? Or is it strictly like, hey, you're trying to get catering going,
I think we can come at this from, so if you've got a catering sales manager and you're happy with them, but they don't have time to do the top funnel stuff because I know how it works. They're answering the phone, they're doing deliveries, they start doing all these other things instead of selling. We can now do some of that high level stuff and then send those qualified leads to them to do the second tier stuff. If they don't have a catering sales manager, we can do all of it. If you have a program where, like, let's say you're a small corporate structure where you've got 20, 30, 40 locations, you've got a catering sales manager, but you don't have anyone at the restaurant level to be able to do it, we can provide support there. We even allow clustering. So if you've got 2 or 3 locations within a trade area, they can all share a program and share one of our people. So we adapt based on the needs of the folks that we're interacting with. We can help you on a lot of different levels. For example, we did a training webinar. We do complimentary training webinars for a brand. Have your franchisees attend. We'll teach them for free. 30-minute sessions. We'll do a teaching session. If they get to the point where they're going, I can't do all of this, guess what? We can help you on the back end. But I want to give too. So, I've already mentioned a lot of brands. If you're interested in doing a training webinar, we'll do those for you, complimentary. Teach your team, low-hanging fruit. Appreciation season's coming up in May with Teacher Week and Nurses Week and Hospital Week. Lots of low-hanging fruit. We can help you do that. So it's that understanding of whatever it takes to grow catering from as many different angles as possible.
Nice.
Yeah, and just doing stuff like that too is wild. Like a complimentary session, things like that. You can always just being able to get your foot in the door with companies. A lot of times, is whether you people always say offer to intern for your role model for a year for free, just to get the experience, get your foot in the door, and then develop it from there. Because like you're saying, if you just are able to show them you're able to provide value, whether it's free, whether they pay for the session or not, then it's okay, well, at least I created that relationship. It might not benefit now, but months, years down the road, they might reach back out and say, hey, now we need you.
That brand might work with, I don't know, different other, operators. And they're like, hey, you guys have, catering, go talk to new Catering Connections. I mean, right there. So, yeah. I mean, we do the same thing with our drivers. You don't want to drive with us. maybe someone does.
Yeah, right.
So it's
exact same. Restaurants are huge on referrals, I feel always.
And one of the things you had touched on a little bit ago is how to work with brands. We're doing some other things as well. So I have something called New Catering Contest, where we actually will run a contest for your locations. The one that was always most successful, we called it Catering Madness. It always took place in March, simultaneous to the basketball tournament. But what we would do is we would take the top 64 performing locations in the company and we put them in a single elimination tournament. And week to week, you're competing against another location than 32. And so we would have we'd have the savory 16 and the edible 8 and the all the foodie 4 all the way to the championship. And we would always have our biggest sales growth weeks during week 1 and 2 because that competitive spirit of people trying to, compete against each other and win, that always worked well. We're also offering phone shops. So if you're a marketing person or you have a catering and you have initiatives out there and you want to know, did training make it out to the restaurant level? We actually will do mystery shops, phone shops, and we'll talk about, hey, I saw this thing online. Can you tell me more about the product? I got to feed 20 people next week for a meeting. I'm coming into town. And you'll start to learn some locations turn away orders. Some locations really don't know about the new marketing initiative. And what it does is it gives you feedback on how the field is doing. So we're offering that. So there's a lot of ways that we want to be able to interact and help you grow your catering sales. Obviously, New Catering Connections is the prime one for us, but we want to be able to offer it from a lot of different angles, if at all possible.
Awesome. Yeah, that's impressive. Last year we did, Jim, what did we call our March Madness? Did we just call it March Madness? Okay, yeah. So deliver that, yeah. But so we did like a March Madness bracket type thing, but it was per driver. I like doing it by market. That's like a really good idea that I think we might utilize next year. That sparked something in my brain. But I did just want to ask, as you're developing these connections with new brands you guys are reaching out to, or brands that have reached out to you, do you see any companies out there right now, any brands that are doing catering as well as you think it should be done, or anyone we could give a shout out to that you think, hey, this is a model that you think should be replicated across wherever?
Yeah, that's a tough question because I work with so many brands, so I don't want to leave anyone out. But the obvious elephant in the room for the Roll Tide is Panera. Panera is just, they've got it figured out. Their system. I mean, I've been lucky enough. We've actually got a couple folks on our team that were former catering managers with Panera, and they're phenomenal. They're trained, the training they receive, the attention to detail. So always a huge fan of what Panera has been able to do. Always also a huge fan of Jason's Deli. I mean, I think those two really are kind of the benchmark on what everyone else wants to strive to be at some point, because they get it from a relationship level. And I think that's that point. If you've mastered that piece, the rest of it kind of falls into place.
It's like, in your opinion, that is obviously that's the key right there. You got to be a relationship manager. You got to have a relationship.
Catering's relationship driven. It's not. It's hard because the decision maker wants, price is not as big a deal to them traditionally. It's really more about, can I do this with ease? Will it get here on time? Will it make me look good? Will it take stress away from my job? That's really still the main thing there for catering, is that quality, on time, quality service, no stress, no hassle. That's really the key there. And that's relationship driven most of the time. It's the ability to trust and have confidence in that person you're partnering with.
They're not necessarily buying what you do, but why you do it.
Yeah, why you do it. I think we can kind of flip too to people who need to build relationships are these ghost concepts, right? Who are kind of now developing their own markets as they, people aren't necessarily aware of what restaurant they're coming out of, how they're coming out of it, where the food's being made, things like that. But we've had a conversation with Atul Sood from Kitchen United, Steph Sollers from Virtual Dining Concepts. There's obviously like cloud kitchens, all these new concepts. We've had discussions with these people, and we kind of are running down a belief where a ghost concept can really be an optimal way to utilize catering, because it's already basically a delivery only business. You have utilized kitchen space only to create the food and push it out. There's no in-store traffic, no foot traffic. How do you feel? Have you navigated in conversations with brands like that? How do you feel about the ghost kitchen concepts now?
I like the ghost kitchen concepts if it's a brand that already has some awareness. I do think if it's a scenario where it's new, not only are you making people aware, but there's got to be a level of education that goes into it. So from my perspective, those phone calls are more challenging, because not only do I have to say, hey, my name is Byron and I'm with ABC Kitchen, and what we do is, and here's what we offer, and we're great. Now that conversation becomes extended. It becomes a little more challenging. Not to say it's not possible, because I do think awareness is big, but we have to change the structure of those conversations. So it's about, I've got to educate you and make you aware all in the first 20 seconds and gain your interest before I can continue. And so it becomes a little more challenging. We've got some brands that are upstart brands, not in the ghost concept, but they're new. So the awareness is not there. If you've got a product that piques someone's interest, those conversations go fantastic. If it feels generic, it's a little more challenging. So I think it's to understand how to educate. So long story short, I do think those concepts from catering operationally is very strong. I think the messaging has to be really sharp in order to be able to get folks on the other side to want to know more.
And the ghost kitchens, to me, it seems like they're really going to utilize SEO and technology and marketplaces more.
They do that,
yeah. That's like more. I'd say that's more of like their primary way of generating sales. To where you're saying relationships. It's like ghost kitchens. You're really only doing delivery. You know, it's like
you have to kind of build up that audience base a lot of
100%.
times too.
So yeah, I mean, definitely not saying it's wrong to use your service for a ghost kitchen. I definitely see value there. But you got to think they're going to leverage more of like the marketplaces, like an Easy Cater. Just list your brand on here, put some pictures of your food, and let the organic customers who go to Easy Cater or wherever whatever marketplace they go to, right?
And once awareness kind of increases, then it's a little bit easier because in other words, I'll use virtual dining because with the Mr. Beast burger, there's such a major success story there that resonated beyond just simple, social media. It became more of a pop culture thing. And so therefore you can kind of get on the phone and go, oh, okay, I've heard of you guys. I know what you guys do. But I think you have to get to a certain level of awareness before our system really becomes as effective in that scenario, because the education piece is so critical.
So much sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I just kind of want to ask here. Maybe this will be a little clip-worthy question. Maybe we'll be able to share this on socials, something like that. Do you have like a top three thing that brands are doing right now that they could change overnight that will help them utilize catering moving forward?
Three things that they could change overnight to make it. I think the first of all is you've got to have conversations over the counter. Just putting signs up or a table that says catering within the restaurant, it's eye candy. People ignore it. It just becomes artwork. I think you have to have personal conversations. I think if brands would understand that people are walking into your restaurant or coming through the drive-through every day that work somewhere where they bring catering in. So sharing that information over the counter, I think that's one. I think two, not using the calendar effectively. During certain times of the year, there's low-hanging fruit. I touched on appreciation season coming up, Black Friday opportunities, holiday opportunities. Right now, we're doing some work with certain brands on university athletics. So you've got teams coming into town to play your local college. Feed them. They need food. They don't necessarily know where to go. They're looking for a place to eat. But again, it's taking advantage of that low-hanging fruit versus it just waiting on a third-party brand to send you an order, or trying to put all of your eggs in that pharmaceutical car dealer basket that a lot of times people do. If you can think around the edges a little bit, what's the strength of your trade area, those kinds of things. As far as the third thing, I think a lot of it is about making sure that your menu is clear. In other words, a one-pager that clearly articulates what you can do and what you can do well. And I think a lot of brands struggle with sometimes putting too much information. It's cluttered. It's complicated looking. Whereas a picture that shows a couple of individual meal options with group options on one side and then a simple menu on the back can go do wonders. Having a multiple page, complicated looking menu sometimes just feels like it's too much for the person on the other side. So I think those would be the three things I would jump at.
I never even thought of option one, because you know what? So true. You never know who's walking through your door ordering your food.
Yeah.
They obviously have to work somewhere. It's like you don't know who you're talking to. You could be talking to an office manager. That's their sole responsibility is to get food for the office once a week. I mean, it's like boom. You just never even know.
And beyond, and that the validity of that, but just teaching people to understand. Oh, they've got a lanyard on. I wonder where they work. Oh, this person looks like a pharmaceutical rep. Let me find out in case they are, so there's a certain things that are, a logoed shirt or, something like that. You can see where people work. I've gone into restaurants for years where they go, I've been trying to get into Blue Cross. And the next thing you know, you just one pass through the dining room and there's somebody that works at Blue Cross right there. Well, what department are you in? Oh, and next thing you know, you're having conversations. It's the simple thing. And to your point is that they know who you are. They know where you are. They know what you sell. They like you. You're 80% of the way there. So take advantage of those opportunities,
100%.
Yeah, and for me, the second point was huge for me. Just at doing like basic outreach for people are going to be in your town and when. Like TJ Shear, we just had a conversation with him when he was working. Where he was at Witch Witch, right? Mm-hmm. He was at Witch Witch and doing catering with them. He's saying his kids were in like the band and in sports, and he would start to reach out to local bands that were coming to town or local sports teams that were coming to town. When you're saying university athletics, if you're on Alabama's campus and Auburn's coming to town, or LSU's coming to town, you reach out to those directors, managers, whoever, and you're like, hey, you guys are coming to town. I know it. We know it. Here's the date. Here's the time. Here's when the food can be there. We already have it set up. All you got to do is press enter, press yes, say yes. It'll be there.
I do think it's pretty funny though that you say that because Auburn and Alabama they don't go well together.
Yeah. Well,
remember there was a story for the World Series this year. It was Philadelphia and Philly, and who else was playing the World Series this year?
I think
the
Dodgers.
Houston?
Yes, it was Houston.
Yeah.
Houston.
Yeah.
And then they went to Philly, and they ordered catering from a local Philly restaurant.
Oh yeah, and they said no, they didn't do it.
They accepted it, but just the food never showed up. And like they just so I do think that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean that's you gotta stay true to your brand.
I know, man.
That's classic.
One of the things that we used to have success with is a lot of times these under 18, AAU type tournaments, softball, baseball, soccer, whatever. All in the summertime, we'd see a tournament taking place. There's 150 teams coming into town, and they're staying at hotels. And so we've got programs that talk about to your point, who to reach out to from the visiting team. Working out programs with the hotels to say, hey, put a block of rooms together, and maybe their first night you comp the meal, and then you order from us, and we'll have the food waiting when they arrive. I mean, there's a lot of ways to work around a lot of these opportunities. You just can't ignore them. Because the big dogs of the world that we talked about a while ago, they have those systems in place and they'll go out and get that business. I think that's what we want to do with New Catering Connections is that I want you to feel like you've got your one location of this, Mexican fast casual concept, and you want to compete side by side with the big dogs of the world. We can do that for you. You can on that phone, you're going to sound every bit as big and every bit as competent as some of these national brands that have a lot of resources.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a great last, I think, closing sentiment there. Absolutely. I do want to give you a moment here. Where can people find New Catering Connections? Can they reach out to you, reach out to the website? How can they find out more about your company, and then how can they actually partner up with you?
Yeah, so our website is newcateringconnections.com. You can email me directly. It's Byron, BYRON, at the nccgroup.com. It's easy. We have a one-page sign-up form. It takes you about 5 minutes to sign up, and then we'll set up everything from there. So we'll have a one-on-one with you to learn about frequently asked questions and talking points for your brand and your location. And usually we run everything on a calendar month. So as soon as we get to the next month, we're ready to go. So it's real easy to sign up. Again, happy to, if you reach out to me at that email or visit us on the website, there's a way to connect to me anyway. But we've got a team that's growing and we're always looking to add more. So excited to help anyone that needs it.
Love it, man. Yeah. And I know that we get asked quite frequently because we work with a lot of catering, specific people. If they're trying to generate new sales, I'm plugging Byron in every time.
New Catering Connections, baby.
Have to.
Love it. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is great. This is a refreshing conversation talking about our hedgehog concept.
Catering, baby.
Little catering action.
Catering.
Love it.
Catering.
Appreciate your time, Byron. Appreciate your time, Byron. I almost called you Duncan. Do people call
you
Duncan?
That's okay. It's all about Duncan, right? Isn't that what you said?
Catering runs on Duncan.
That's how you. Yeah. We'll wheel that back in. We'll bring it back to the beginning. I appreciate it, Byron. Thanks so much for joining us, man. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thanks, guys. All the best.